O'Neill 2018 Community Veterans Day Program. I would like to start by saying thank you to all that helped put this program on today. The American Legion Post 93, the American Legion Riders, and also the Junior Cadets, the O'Neill Public Schools, O'Neill St. Mary's Schools, and all of you that have been here today to help honor and thank our veteran men and women for their service. Will you please now rise and remove cover and stand for the posting of the colors by the American Legion Post 93 Honor Guard, and then remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Thank you. Please be seated. At this time, it is my honor to introduce to you Angela Kramer of St. Mary's High School, and she will share with us the history of the first Veterans Day.
The history of Veterans Day. World War I, known at the time as the Great War, officially ended when the Treaty of Versailles was signed on June 28, 1919, in the Palace of Versailles outside of the town of Versailles, France. However, fighting ceased 7 months earlier when an armistice, or temporary cessation of hostilities, between the Allied nations and Germany went into effect on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. For that reason, November 11, 1918, is generally regarded as the end of the war to end all wars. In November 1919, President Wilson proclaimed November 11th as the first commemoration of Armistice Day with the following words, quote, "To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service, and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the things from which it has freed us, and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy with peace and justice in the Council of the Nations." The original concept for the celebration was for a day observed with parades and public meetings and a brief suspense of business beginning at 11 a.m. The United States Congress officially recognized the end of World War I when it was passed a concurrent resolution on June 4, 1926 with these words. Whereas the 11th of November, 1918 marked the cessation of the most destructive, sanguinary, and far-reaching war in human records, and the resumption by the people of the United States of peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be severed. And whereas it is fitting that the recurring anniversary of this date should be commemorated with thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations. And whereas the legislatures of 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate, the House of Representatives concurring, that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th, and inviting the people of the United States to observe the day in schools and churches or other suitable places, with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with all other peoples. An act approved May 13, 1938, made the 11th of November of each year a legal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be thereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. Armistice Day was primarily a day set aside to honor veterans of World War I. But in 1954, after World War II had required the greatest mobilization of soldiers, sailors, Marines, and airmen in the nation's history, after American forces had fought aggression in Korea, the 83rd Congress, at the urging of the Veteran Service Organizations, amended the Act of 1938 by striking out the word armistice and inserted in its place veterans. With the approval of this legislation on June 1, 1954, November 11th became a day to honor American veterans of all wars. Later that same year, on October 8th, President Dwight D. Eisenhower issued the first Veterans Day proclamation, which stated, quote, "In order to ensure proper and widespread observance of this anniversary, all veterans organizations, and the entire citizenry will wish to join hands in a common purpose. Toward this end, I am designating the Administrator of Veterans Affairs as Chairman of the Veterans Day National Committee, which shall include such other persons as the Chairman may select, and which will coordinate at the national level necessary planning for the observance. I am also requesting the heads of all departments and agencies of the executive branch of the government to assist the National Committee in every way possible." Unquote. On that same day, President Eisenhower sent a letter to the Honorable Harvey B. Higbee, Administrator of Veterans Affairs, designating him as Chairman of the Veterans Day National Committee. In 1958, the White House advised VA's General Counsel that the 1954 designation of the VA administration as Chairman of the Veterans Day National Committee applied to all subsequent VA administrators. Since March 1989, when VA was elevated to a cabinet-level department, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs has served as the committee's chairman. The Uniform Holiday Bill was signed on June 28, 1968, and was intended to ensure 3-day weekends for federal employees by celebrating 4 national holidays on Mondays: Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, Veterans Day, and Columbus Day. It was thought that these extended weekends would encourage travel, recreational and cultural activities, and stimulate greater industrial and commercial production. Many states do not agree with this decision and continue to celebrate the holidays on their original dates. The first Veterans Day under the new law was observed with much confusion on October 25, 1971. It is quite apparent that the commemoration of this day was a matter of historic and patriotic significance to a great number of our citizens. And so, on September 20, 1975, President Gerald R. Ford signed Public Law 9497, which returned an annual observance of Veterans Day to its original date of November 11th, beginning in 1978. This action supported the desires of the overwhelming majority of state legislatures. all major veteran service organizations, and the American people. Veterans Day continues to be observed on November 11th, regardless of what day of the week in which it falls. The restoration of the observance of Veterans Day to November 11th not only preserves the historical significance of the day, it helps focus on the important purpose of Veterans Day, a celebration to honor American veterans for their patriotism, love for their country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for a common cause.
Good morning. My name is Karen Cheetah, and I have the pleasure of being the choir director at O'Neill Public High School. Today, the choir students, Mrs. Kloppenborg and myself, would like to invite all veterans and family members of veterans to rise when their branches song is sung so we can recognize them.
Thank you, Ms. Kramer, and also thank you to the choir. This time I'd like to introduce O'Neill High School student Christopher Larson to the podium to read a poem titled A Tribute to the Armed Forces.
From the colonist who rebelled to the soldier of today, my thanks be to you, I know not what else to say. Since the words I do not have to give the tribute that is due, so a simple heartfelt thanks is what I give to you. Thanks to our American heroes, whose devotion is second to none, whose courage and braveness alone caused many battles to be won. We have beaten the forces of evil and carried our flag far and wide. Because of our American heroes, our hearts are filled with pride. Only because of you and the pride and the price you willingly did pay, Old Glory still flies today.
Thank you, Mr. Larson, and also to Mr. Dean and the band. Our guest speaker today is a graduate from Creighton Community High School in Creighton, Nebraska. After graduating from high school, he entered the United States Air Force in 1977 and spent 4 years as a C-141 loadmaster and traveled to many parts of the world. His most memorable mission was serving in the Air Force on a trip to Antarctica. After his discharge from the Air Force, he then joined the Air National Guard for 4.5 years. While starting his higher level of education at the same time at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Natural Resources from the College of Agriculture at the University of Nebraska. After graduating college, he then went to flight school at Fort Rucker, Alabama, where the military taught him to fly helicopters. He mastered the controls of the UH-1 Huey for 10 years and dominated the UH-60 Black Hawk for 13 years, holding 4 deployments in the Middle East, with 2 of these deployments as a medevac helicopter pilot. His crew was a valued asset and responsible for extracting injured soldiers from combat situations and was instrumental in saving many American lives. Deploying to Afghanistan on an agricultural deployment team, also called an ADT, he had first-hand boots on the ground working directly with the Afghanistan people, where he learned to teach, mentor, and troubleshoot agriculture issues with Afghanistan locals. Deploying back to Iraq in 2016 through 2017, he became a member of the Big Red One in Fort Riley, Kansas. He was assigned to the Main Command Post Aviation Cell as the Director of Personal Recovery. Their mission? To come up with a course of action to get back any soldier that may have been captured with no casualties. C.W. Ford Greger is now retired from the military after 40 years of service. He is currently a member of the American Legion Post 74 and a past commander of BFW Post 1151, both of Creighton, Nebraska. Tim Greger has retired this past year from the Natural Resources Conservation Service after 31 years and has chosen to run for the 40th District legislative seat, in which I believe he won. Congratulations. Tim Greger is happily married to his wife Donna of 32 years. During this union comes 3 children, a son Brent and his wife Andrea, a daughter Megan and husband Ross, and a daughter Jessica, along with 3 grandchildren, Braxton, Mason, and Ashley. Tim Greger, his wife, and family all live in or near Creighton, Nebraska, and are currently enjoying the good life of Nebraska. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Chief Warrant Officer in 40th District Legislator, Mr. Tim Greger.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you, Corey, for the opportunity here to speak with you guys today. Yes, let me first say I've been very humbled and honored to be elected as the next state senator of the 40th District. I have spent 40 years in the military and deployed 4 times, as Corey mentioned, 2 times as a medevac helicopter pilot, once with the agriculture development team to Afghanistan. And my 4th and last deployment was to back to Iraq with the Big Red One. So I've spent a good amount of time overseas and away from my family. I've missed birthdays, sporting events of my wife, children, and grandchildren. The reason I bring this up is because of a very special person that give her heart and soul into remembering the men and women deployed. This woman was Beth Telke, right here locally. Beth never failed to make sure the men and women deployed were not forgotten with care packages she and her group were responsible for making and mailing to anyone and everyone. I was a recipient of many of those packages throughout my deployments. It was great to receive one to be able to share with the other soldiers, airmen, that may have not received anything for themselves. I had the opportunity to meet Beth after I returned from deployment, and we became friends and she was always, and she will always be a person I'll remember. The important thing Beth did is to show a lot of people what a little thing can do sometimes to make a big difference in someone else's life. Not that her efforts were little, but the small packages they sent out meant a lot, and the act of kindness of her and her other counterparts in running the program. So, as I have done many times, I thank Beth and her crew for their continued and others will, and hope that others will continue to carry on their great work. Believe me, it is greatly appreciated. We gather at events like this to honor not just this recent generation of veterans, but every man and woman who has honorably served. Veterans Day 2018 is especially significant. It was 100 years ago at 11 a.m. on the 11/11, that's November 11, 1918, when the armistice began, which ended in World War I. It was this conflict so bloody and horrific that many opportunistic refer to it as the war to end all wars. Sadly, it wasn't. It was a war which led to the founding of the American Legion and the commitment by this country to care for the veterans who came home, blinded by mustard gas, shell-shocked by trench warfare, and impoverished due to the military service. It is a commitment that continues today, whether the wounds are inflicted by an IED in Afghanistan or training accident in California. It is a commitment that covers veterans of all races, religion, gender, and economic classes. And while we currently have a strong economy, veterans still have a higher chance of homelessness than those that have not served in uniform. Too often, a veteran's highly skilled service isn't fully appreciated by the civilian sector, which certifications and college degrees sometimes outweigh common sense. The best way to eliminate veterans' homelessness is to reduce veterans' unemployment and provide treatment to those who may try self-medication as a means to deal with post-traumatic stress disorder. A simple but proven way to thank a veteran is to hire a veteran. It offers hope and opportunities to those that have not just earned a shot at the American dream, but have defended the freedom of others to do the same. Employers should understand that it is smart to hire a veteran, and when the members of the National Guard, military reserve deploy, it is America's business to ensure that civilian careers do not suffer. Our armed forces are full of examples of veterans who have overcome tremendous barriers to continue serving. One such hero is Navy Chief Personnel Specialist Raina Hockenberry. Shot 5 times while serving in Kabul, Afghanistan, she is fortunate to have survived. In 2018, just 4 years after the brutal attack, Raina won 8 gold medals and set 4 records in rowing, powerlifting, cycling, and swimming at the Warrior Games in Colorado Springs, Colorado. Hockenberry explained that she decided to remain in the Navy even after she was wounded. As she, a quote from her, "I was severely injured to the point where a medical retirement made sense, but I couldn't imagine not serving with the military." And Raina was told by the Military Times, "It's all a part of who we are and the fellow brothers and sisters in the military. We believe in that, in what you do, and couldn't imagine not standing with them." Nor could we imagine standing without Raina, a person like that who was willing to even serve after being so brutally wounded. America is fortunate to have had millions of brave men and women stand for freedom since our country's founding. We owe it to all of them to ensure that their service and sacrifice is always remembered. We also remember their families and who sacrificed time with their loved ones, performed disproportionate share of household responsibilities, and often had to make some difficult career and educational adjustments due to frequent address changes. Military service is not like private sector. Most of the civilian jobs do not require serious risk of life or limb to fulfill a dangerous mission or submit employees to criminal charges or for disobeying their boss. Unlike the military counterparts, civilians can live where they want and choose a career whenever they want. But today is a day for civilians and, in fact, all Americans to recognize those who have given to us those freedoms, the veterans of the United States military. Thank you to all that have served, and God bless our great nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. At this point in the program, I would ask Tim to come back up and help me recognize very special people. We would like to ask that all Vietnam veterans to stand and be recognized, and then come forward, where you will receive a pin and a commemorative pin and certificate today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's an honor for me to recognize those individuals that served our country during the Vietnam War. Please come forward. Purpose, the Vietnam Veteran Lapel Pin, is to be recognized and thanked and honor the United States military veterans who served during the Vietnam War. In order to be eligible, living United States veterans who served on active duty in the United States Armed Forces at any time during the period from November 1, 1955 to May 15, 1975, regardless of location, are eligible to receive lapel pins. These lapel pins will be presented to these gentlemen today, and I would ask that you please rise and join me in ovation for the true American heroes. Gentlemen, the grateful nation thanks, honors you today, and it's embossed on the back of that pin. Just keep that close to your heart as you wear it. Again, thank you very much. A reminder, at the end of our program today, we would ask that those individuals receiving a pin today, please stay, as we'd like to have a picture on the south end of the gym at the end of the program. I would now ask that Carmen Lechtenberg with the Quilts of Valor program come forward with her presentation today.
As I get ready to present, I will ask that my helpers come up that are going to help me present these quilts today. If you would please come forward. My name is Carmen Lechtenberg, and it is my honor and privilege to be representing the National Quilts of Valor Foundation. The Foundation's mission is to cover service members and veterans touched by war with comforting and healing quilts of valor. So what does touched by war mean? It means different things to different people. Part of the oath of enlistment in the military service states, I do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Soldiers and veterans have vowed to lay down their lives for you and me, no questions asked. Veterans here today did what they were asked to do during their military service. Each had a different duty or job. It may have been to fly a military plane to deliver supplies, to serve on ships or submarines, to serve in humanitarian efforts for the less fortunate children and families, to serve in the infantry soldier in the war zones, or to serve in a military office sending letters, recording events, and managing finances. Thank you to all active military and veterans for your service to our country. Quilts of Valor began in 2003 by Catherine Roberts, whose son was deployed in Iraq. He was a gunner on a Humvee. Catherine says she felt 10 seconds of panic as her son faced danger every day. If you're old enough to remember back to that time, what did you see on TV? What did you hear on the radio? We heard extensive coverage of the war in the Middle East. Think about the last time you saw a movie. It may have been in the theater, in your home, on your phone, on a computer. Think about the lighting and the music of that movie as it changed from scene to scene. Sometimes the music was soft and relaxing. Sometimes it was loud and stimulating in the scenes where there was intense action. Catherine Roberts had a dream, and she says it was like a movie. She says in the first scene, this dream was vivid as real life. She saw a young man sitting on the side of his bed in the middle of the night, hunched over. The permeating feeling of it was utter despair. she could see the war demons clustered around him, dragging him down into the emotional gutter. Then, as if watching the movie, it transformed, and she saw him in the next scene wrapped in a quilt. His whole demeanor had changed, from one of despair to one of hope and well-being. The quilt had made this dramatic change. The message of her dream was, quilts equal healing. Catherine, a military mom, nurse, and quilter, felt that making quilts for soldiers was something that she could do, so she began making her first quilt. Catherine would like the Quilts of Valor to be for a civilian equivalent of a Purple Heart. It's not for charity and not handed out, but it is awarded. With the help of Chaplain John Kellerson of Walter Reed Hospital, Catherine awarded her first quilt to a wounded soldier from Minnesota. Soon, friends joined her efforts. With the help of the internet, in just 2 years, her efforts became the National Foundation with the Quilts of Valor. The purpose is awarding quilts for soldiers and veterans touched by war. She tells the small group of quilters that was elated when they hit their 100th quilt. Today, there have been 200,727 quilts awarded to both active military and veterans. We need to remember that Quilts of Valor are not about politics. It's about a thankful nation, comforting and caring for our active military and veterans. The Nebraska Quilts of Valor has been sent to many places in the world. We've received the nicest thank you notes from Afghanistan intensive care nurses describing a soldier's injuries and that the Quilt of Valor was proudly worn during their Purple Heart ceremonies. One young soldier in Afghanistan put the quilt aside as he was getting ready to leave the hospital to be sent to Germany. But the nurse told him, "No, this is yours." He held it close to his chest, smelled it, and said, "It even smells like home." A detailed thank you written by a USO in Ramstedt Air Force Base, Germany, said for their gratitude of the high quality of Quilts of Valor. Pictures have been received showing Quilts of Valor on stretchers in the hallways of the U.S. Army Hospital in Lunsden, Germany, waiting for plane loads of injured U.S. soldiers to arrive. With military hospitals, this is the largest military hospital outside the United States. On a plane load of 200 injured soldiers returning home, a former military person and now civilian contractor working with the U.S. military tells that all 200 soldiers were covered with the Quilt of Valor flying home. They kept the injured soldiers warm during the long flight. Quilts of Valor became so popular that now Canada, Great Britain, and Australia have added to their efforts and are now honoring their veterans and military personnel. In 2015, because there was less deployment, the Quilts of Valor Foundation decided to focus on the veterans here at home. Anyone can request a Quilt of Valor to be awarded to an active service member or an honorably discharged veteran. Today, I have some individuals that are going to be helping me present, and I will ask those recipients to come forward here in just a minute. Recently, as Quilts of Valor have been wrapped around veterans, one specific person said, "I don't deserve this." Awarding a Quilt of Valor is not about a person deserving it or earning it. A Quilt of Valor says, in a way that mere words can't, "Thank you for your service, your sacrifice, your valor. Thank you for standing up in harm's way to protect the freedoms that we enjoy by the rest of us. Thank you for putting your life on hold to serve. Your Quilt of Valor is appreciation for the fulfillment of your duty." So at this time, I'm going to have the quilts put out on display, and then I will ask our recipients to come up. I would ask that Jim Summers please come forward and Jody Fox please come forward. Jim Summers served in the Army from 1979 to 1984 and was stationed at Baumholder, Germany and Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Jody Fox served in the Navy from 1993 to 1997. She served during the Desert Storm War and was stationed at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. We honor you for your service. You left your home to protect us. We thank you. We know that freedom is not free. This quilt is to provide you comfort and to know that your family, friends, community, and a grateful nation appreciate what you have done. Please use this quilt. Do not put it in a box, in a closet, or on a shelf. Please use it and know that the quilter who made it wants you to know that you are cared for, and we want to provide you comfort. And lastly, if you have not heard it, welcome home. Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen, and Broken Valley for honoring our veterans. Let's give Carmen a round of applause. It is formal protocol to stand during the playing of taps and place your hand over your heart and salute the flag. Before we do that, we will now learn the history of taps. Please welcome to the podium Mr. Jacob Pongratz from St. Mary's High School.
Of all the military bugle calls, none is so easily recognized and more apt to render emotion than the call taps. The melody is both eloquent and haunting, and the history of its origin is interesting and somewhat clouded in controversy. In the British Army, a similar call known as last post has been sounded over soldiers' graves since 1885. But the use of taps is unique with the United States military, since the call is sounded at funerals, replaying, and memorial services. The origins of taps, the distinctive bugle melody played at U.S. military funerals and memorials as a lights-out signal to soldiers at night, date back to the American Civil War. In July 1862, U.S. General Daniel Butterfield and his brigade were camped at Harrison's Landing, Virginia, recuperating after the 7 days battle near Richmond. Dissatisfied with the standard bugle call employed by the Army to indicate troops it was time to go to sleep, and thinking the call should sound more melodious, Butterfield reworked an existing bugle call used to signal the end of the day. After he had his brigade bugler guided Oliver Wilcox Norton to play it for the men, buglers from other units became interested in the 24-note tune, and it quickly spread throughout the Army and even caught on with the Confederates. Not long after Butterfield created taps, it was played for the first time at a military funeral for a Union cannoneer killed in action. The man's commanding officer, Captain John Tidball, sight of the bugle call would be safer than the traditional firing of 3 rocket balls over the soldier's grave, a move which couldn't be confused with a nearby enemy as an attack. As for the name TAPS, the most likely explanation is that it comes from the fact that prior to Butterfield's bugle call, Lights Out call was followed by 3 drum beats, dubbed the drum taps, as well as the taps, and then simply taps. When Butterfield's call replaced the drum beats, soldiers referred to it as taps, although this was an unofficial moniker according to TAPS historian and bugle expert Jari Hornova. He notes that Butterfield's bugle call was officially known as Extinguished Lights in American military manuals until 1891. Since that time, TAPS has been a formally recognized part of U.S. military funerals. Today, at Berkeley Plantation, the historic estate located at Harrison's Landing, there's a monument commemorating the origins of TAPS. Berkeley Plantation also happens to be the birthplace of Benjamin Harrison III, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, and William Henry Harrison, the nation's ninth president.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise and remain standing for the playing of taps, and then remain standing for the retirement of colors. And now, Matty Holbein and Jay Stagemeyer from O'Neill High School will play taps. This concludes our program today. I want to thank you very much for coming, and a special thank you to our veterans. Please, as you're leaving, you're invited to the Commons area here to view the displays honoring local individuals served our country in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. And again, we ask that those individuals receiving pins and quilts today please remain on the south side of the gym for pictures. Thank you all for attending.